All right, we're live.
Hey, welcome everyone to another session with Answer. We're talking about, giving you the gist about everything DBA related. Today we are talking about breaking into database administration, how to start learning DBA without a tech background. As always, we have our wonderful Dr. Namdi here with us again to, talk us through and answer any questions that we have. So yeah, for those listening, if you have any questions, just make sure to put them in the comments so that we can reply to them. So let's get started. Dr. Namdi, for someone without a tech background, what would you say is the best place to start learning database administration?
Um, if you don't have any technical background, there's multiple options. So I think we talked about some of this a little bit last week. So people who are already in tech, there's a difference because there's a lot of information and misinformation about how to go about this. Some people want to, oh, I can just get a course and or I can,
Yeah.
and and while you can just go buy a course on Udemy for $25 or something like that. There is that serves or that's something I recommend more for people that already have technical expertise. So if you're already in the technical space, you're already working in tech, you're maybe in the desktop support, help desk, server administration, you already have some foundational knowledge on how how technology works, how Windows works, server administration. The language is not new to you completely, right? So what you're essentially doing is upskilling and then going into that database administration realm. But if you've never been in this realm before, now that um, it's a different approach, right? There are a couple of ways I will recommend. One, if you're already employed, right? If you're already working somewhere, then I would say, just try to start looking at ways to transition within your organization. Within with your current employer, you can start looking to make that lateral move into the IT department because that's one way. And that way you start gaining the exposure, you start gaining that knowledge of what happens. So if you are working in, say, if you're working in a non-technical department and then you do a lateral move and then they put you, say, in the NOC or somewhere, that starts giving you exposure you know, to what's, infrastructure and how servers are, how servers talk to themselves. You're going to start learning about networking. You're going to start learning fundamentals around IP addressing. You're going to start learning about servers and storage. So that's always the first place. If you're already working somewhere that has an IT department, that's step one. I would say look to see if you can transition into the IT department. You're not going to go from doing something in a different realm and jump to becoming a database administrator straight up. That's probably not going to happen. But at least you position yourself in a place where one, you're getting familiar with tech and how tech works. And because again, in the end, all what we do is all there's relationships across the board. And so all you're going to now have to do will be to look for opportunities to move up, right? That will, or move into those DBA roles if the opportunity comes in, or comes open. But that's the only drawback to this approach is you don't control all the factors. Right. I don't think there's ever a situation where you have full control over everything. But with this one, there's so much that is out of your hands because your manager has to be okay with you making that move. The people in the IT department have to be okay with accepting you into the aspect of the opportunity. There has to be that mutually beneficial transaction going on. If you're really good, your manager might not want to let you go. So all of those things to play when you're looking to make that jump, make that, transition. And so it's a dicey approach, but I always say, hey, at least a lot of companies have some infrastructure where you can even go talk to HR, let them know these are your goals, and they can start putting you on that path. So that's where I would start before doing anything else. Now, for just anybody who is not, you're not in that technical line already, but you're aspiring to get into tech, you've learned, you've watched some of our workshops and attended some of the sessions, and you feel like, I want to explore this DBA career. I like the prospects, um I like what it offers. I feel like this is something I will excel at. That's great. You need to, database administration is broad, right? For us at Enstar Technologies, we focus on Microsoft SQL. That's what we train on. That's what we teach people. That's how we help people become DBAs. You need to identify your path, right? There's no general practitioner, in database administration, right? Like in medicine, you can have general practice where you can do a little of everything, or you can do, you have the specialists who are and dentists and dermatologists and all that specialization and then general practice. So there's no general practice database administrator. Right. When recruiters are looking for a database administrator, they are looking for a Microsoft SQL DBA, they're looking for an Oracle DBA, they're looking for MySQL DB. So step one is identify the lane you want to go. Right. It doesn't mean you're not going to learn anything else, or you're not going to, get to know about other platforms. As you advance in your career, as you get to do more, you're going to get exposure to other platforms based on the opportunities that come your way. But pick a lane, right? Again, Microsoft SQL that's our platform for here at Enstar Technologies. But that's the first thing you start. And then once you pick a lane, step two will be become proficient in that lane, right? So become really good at it, right? And this is where you need actual training now. So this is where training and mentorship comes in. You're not just watching a training online, or again, that's not bad. If you just want to start understanding concepts, there's nothing wrong in going to buy a course on Udemy, or if you have LinkedIn learning, going to start learning or getting Coursera and buying some things. The unique thing about going through proper mentorship, like going through a career training program, like what we do is we're exposing you not just to the technology, but also what to expect on the job. So it's career training, it's continuing education, it's built for not just the educational aspects, but the career transition aspects. Because you're learning new language, you're learning not just the technology, but how to navigate conversations with recruiters. You need to understand how to set up your resume. Some things they are still going to be foreign to you as you go on. How to have conversations with your interviewers. What are they expecting through that process? When you start the job, how is that process going to work? What is that first week, first couple of months, right? How to navigate conversations when you start receiving issues. So those are the things that you will not get in an academic training, right? Anybody, even if you learned a SQL Server administration, from a technical perspective, it doesn't show you how it works. It won't give you the concepts on the job. And so but that's where you need to go get somebody who has done it before to show you, right? And so that's where, so become proficient in the technology that of your choice, right? Become proficient as a SQL Server person, an Oracle person, spend the time, put in the work, put in the time, pay the money required, to get knowledge. And then once you're proficient, if you have a network of other people, I'll say start networking. While you're learning, people underestimate the power of connecting with other people who are already doing what they're doing. So who else do you know that does what you're trying to do? If you don't know any people personally, look for forums to join and, online communities to be a part of, and just start connecting with other people who are in the same realm, right? If you're in an online community, be active in there, contribute. Now that you're learning, test out your skills, verify your knowledge by trying to be, add value to conversations, share thoughts. Because what happens is in these communities, you don't know who you're going to connect with. yes, I'll talk about applying for jobs and all of that, but in the end, um, a lot of times the easiest way to get a job is when somebody's putting a good word for you. Right? When somebody says, "Hey, I know this person, I've worked with them, I think they know what they're doing," right? Or there's this guy I know we're on the same platform, blah blah blah. They sound like they're very good. I know they're looking for a job. That always at least gets you an interview. Those internal referrals, and that's when networking comes in because you never know who you're going to connect with. The person you connect with might not be with the intention of getting a job, but then because they're already in the field, they know what they have connections. So somebody that knows somebody can. So networking, basically, that's what networking is. Um, so while you're learning and equipping yourself with the skills and all of that, I'll say also be actively networking. That's something that's super important. Um, you're networking, you're learning, then post all of that. Then you're not ready to you get. That's now when I'll say you're ready to take the next step. Which is trying to break into the market. But it's first equip yourself with the skill sets. Immerse yourself in the community, right, of other people who are in the same lane as yourself. Once you're there at that point, you're proficient, then we can start talking, setting up your resume properly, and we can start talking to recruiters and interviewing for jobs, right? But if you're not solid, and I mean solid where you are confident in the skill. You're not going to, all of us are still learning, even with over a decade of experience in database administration to date. There's still a lot of things that I see and I have to stop and, because the technology is always evolving. It's not,
Mm.
it didn't stop changing when I got in. It's been changing. So it's on us to keep learning and keep getting better. I still learn from people who have trained, who are working, and I hear, okay, they talk about things they are doing, and I have to go look it up and do some studying and, you know, update my skills basically because that's new in the market. Somebody else is doing something. So there's never an end to upskilling and getting better, but that's where it starts from. That's where it starts from. All right.
Okay, okay. For people who are new, since it's a tech career path, we're expecting some programming, some coding, and that usually scares people away sometimes when you think of tech. So, in terms of database administration, how much programming would you say you needed? How much do you have to learn about the coding of programming? How does it apply to database administration career path?
Um, that's a good question because people always have that coding phobia, a coding phobia, right? Can't people ask me like, am I going to write code? Are we going to do blah blah blah? I've had people ask, do I need to be good at maths? Um, Not necessarily, right? It's um as a database administrator, is it a requirement to write code? Now, when people talk code, then we need to kind of explain there's programming languages and there's scripting languages, right? With programming languages, you're talking about object-oriented programming or those types, those tier like the Javas and C Sharps, .NET, all of those ones. And those are your building applications. Application layer, suite products that users interact with. That's a higher layer. Databases at a lower tier in that application development life cycle. So at the database level in that lower cycle, we use scripting languages, right? The Pythons, the SQL or TSQL. Those are, for manipulating data and database objects, right? It's not necessarily impacting an output that users will see. Users are not directly interacting with end product of scripts. All right. So, but when people think coding, their mind is going straight to maybe they watched a movie and somebody was, typing something. Like, can you get in there? What comes to mind? Like you see, that's and then one guy is like, yeah, do that. It's straight. Man. Yeah, nobody does that in real life. Cars, can you get it?
The firewall, oh, security breach.
Any hacks, hack, nobody does. That's not how. where you're just typing and no, that's a bunch of bullshit, right? Um, that's the picture, So that's why even for the most part, when my company say you're in tech, oh wow, you're super smart. And yes, there's a level of intelligence required to do what we do, right? But that reaction is coming from a place of, man, you guys really do magic. I do. So, so we're not dealing with programming language because again, the database level or the database, where database is in the application, tier is back end, is lower. So at that layer is more scripted, right? So that's the coding. The coding we do is writing scripts, which is different from programming. And the reason why it's you are we going to write scripts, right? So I guess let me call it code. Is that something you need to be proficient in? Not necessarily, right? Because most of these platforms are Windows based, they are UI based. There's a lot of drag and drop. The key thing you need to know is when you're implementing a solution, why are you doing it? How do you decide on the best solution, right? It's more a lot, especially with administration, it's problem solving, it's implementation, it's design, right? You're not, whenever we write code, it's more for data manipulation at a very, trivial, at a more like, give me some top tier level, right? We're not writing complex stored procedures to, aggressively manipulate data or, generate complex reports. That's a different career path. That's, you're a database developer, that's a different where your job is you're writing complex processes to talk to data. So does it help to be to have good knowledge of this scripting languages? Yes. Um, is it a requirement? Not necessarily. I've seen people go years without having to ever write a single line of select statement, and they've done it, right. Okay. But I always recommend if you're going to pick a career path, go all in. Right. So it's like in our programs, we highlight this, but we just introduce you to T-SQL at least to get you. It's like at least get familiar with this aspect of the technology just in case you run into it at any point in your career, which eventually at some point everybody does. So it's not completely new to you, or you see a job description that says you need to know some TSQL, the first thing you're doing is not, freaking out. So is it needed? Is that something we'll have to do? Would you need that to survive? Not necessarily. But is it a good thing to know? Would that help you stand out? Would that expand what you're able to do? Would that make you a better engineer? Absolutely, yes. So it's not a deal breaker if you don't do it. Again, I know a ton of people who have never written a script who you cannot give a simple select statement with two table join to figure out. They won't know what they are earning, as database administrators, because they don't have to do that. Our superpower is in maintenance. It's in making sure the databases are up, so developers have what to write, right? So making sure backups are in place so that you can, business can continue going. So what we do is at a higher level in a sense because it's directly business impacting, revenue impacting, than what say developers are doing, right? And so it helps you be better, but it is not required.
So for people who don't have that experience, like you're saying how important the practical experience is, people who go to like Udemy and all those courses, how can they gain those practical experiences that is important to train them or help them get better at the job?
Um, if you have colleagues that are already working, who are willing to show you what they do and spend time with you, somebody has to show you, right? To get experience, someone has to show you, right? If at least you're familiar with how things go, prior to you doing anything database, and you already have some tech training, and you had to configure a virtual machine from scratch, right? Thinking, right? So the average person was to build out a virtual machine, set up a network on their own, right? Because it's to them, they're just following, okay, they click things, it works, right?
Mhm.
If you go to, say, a Microsoft training platform, they will do simulations, but all of the infrastructure is already built, and so you don't know how that works behind. All of the IP addresses are already pre-configured. So yes, you go click, do the standard things, but your knowledge is surface level, right? So eventually you need, my recommendation is you need mentorship, right? You need to let somebody, you need to see it in action, right? Whether it's through, a mentor, people who have done it, building out and laying out, simulations for you where you can actually practice and get, do some of these things. Or if you have somebody who is working from home and is likes you enough to let you, like for me, I had some of that, right? Where I had a few friends who are already in the game while I was trying to get in. So while I was taking class, I still paid, right, to take classes and all, but I wanted to expedite my getting in, story for another day. But I was watching, because I was paying, so I had a curriculum. So I'll go on YouTube, following the curriculum, I'll study, I'll, practice. Then I'll go like, hey, are you doing this? Show me. Right. And so and because I guess they saw how serious I was, they were okay with letting me, in fact, like, hey, you know what, watch over this thing. If I get a ping, let me know. Watch this email. So I had the privilege, I had the, to see it in real life, to see notifications coming, to see, and then when small things would come in, like, okay, what would you do here? Um, so that also helps me, with, even though I was taking the classes, I had my own mentors and everything, but having the opportunity to see it in practice was second to none, right? So that's something you need, especially when you're looking to get in. So proper simulation through, the right kind of institutions, whether it's boot camps, Answer Technologies does it better than everybody else, but even if you want to try somebody else, that's fine. Just make sure they know what they're doing. And they have the setup to make sure you're getting enough hands-on practice. Or if you know somebody who's already working and they like you enough to, most people, because of, again, confidentiality, the nature of the data we're exposed to, the information we have access to, even if I like you, I don't like you like that. Mistake. Um, so again, the good thing about I think going back to what I said about, networking and community, it was me, my friends, if you guys who are doing this thing. So they weren't afraid because they were there. Like even if one wasn't there, somebody else was watching me. And some of them had multiple gigs. And so even if something broke with one, hungry. But that's not always the situation for people. So that's why sometimes you have to invest in yourself to get to the next level. If you think of the the return on this, right? The average pay, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, for a DBA, median pay as at last year was at 101,000 a year. That's median across the country, right? And so if you look at that, that means there are some states, that it's going to be like way higher than that, and some places where maybe a little bit lower. But in all, it's in that range. So let's say 95K let's say that's the starting salary for you coming out of this. If you are going to make an investment to guarantee that, is it not worth it? Right? If you're going to make 3K, 4K, whatever it is, investment to guarantee yourself that 95, and a worthy risk to take. It's an easy, like, what I mean? So the data supports it. One of the beautiful things about database administration, and we've said this over and over again through all of this series that we've talked about, is it's not going to go away. This is not like learning Epic or learning something where the market is saturated, there's no more opportunity, right? Businesses will always depend on data and database administrators to help manage their data. That will never stop, regardless of where technology goes. Technology can evolve, but the core of what we do is always going to be relevant. Even, I think it was me and you talking the other day, right, on one of these sessions. Even with artificial intelligence, it's still driven by data. So behind the Geminis and Chat GPTs and what's the one for Microsoft, right? All of them is they're still using data to it's still manipulated based on data available to. That's why there's machine learning. So these systems are constantly being fed new for that people who are hired and all they do is feed information to these systems on the back end. So, somebody needs to watch that data. That's us, right? That's us. And so it's it's one of those things you just have to put your head down and do the work. If you put your head down, do the work, put in the time, it will pay you back way more than everybody who has gone through a program and gotten a job. It's refunded them and then kept. I have one of our students, a lady, she called me one time and she was like, she was in a dilemma because she had three jobs and she was interviewing for a role with Google. Google was a dream company for her, but there was no way she could fit it. So now she was trying to figure out how do I decide on which one to drop. And I'm like, why do you keep all of sorry, like I my thing about multiple gigs, right? Because you can't serve two masters. It's almost like at some point you're going to one, and it's if you're saving for something or maybe it's a short-term hustle, I'm good with that. But a long-term hustle, I don't think it's sustainable, and and so if you're like, well, she was trying to buy a house and she did it to, and it works. I know I have a friend in Texas. He bought a couple of two, three houses doing multiple jobs, and so if you have short-term goals, you're trying to maybe raise some down payment to pay for a house, those type of things, fine. But where I'm going is how much did she give me? Right? How much did she pay to enter technologies versus using that you're looking at buy multiple jobs and interview with Google, right? So that's the opportunity. You have to be willing to invest. And then when you invest, you're going to take it seriously. That's the other thing. A $9 Udemy promotional discount course is optional for you. It didn't cost you anything. Right? It doesn't hurt you if you meet, nobody's going when you know you're going to see me on Saturday, do your homework, right? You don't want to embarrass yourself. You know you were going to have a conversation. So there's something to having guidance and being called out and having other people, you're already put into a network where you're not even going on a journey by yourself. And so um, do what you have to do, but invest. All of us have done it. We're invested in ourselves. I keep doing it. I believe in paying for coaching. I've spent a lot of money on coaching and growing myself, even beyond tech and what we do. So that would be my ultimate. That's your hack. That's your cheat code. You have to be willing to invest in yourself. That's what it is. Not making anybody.
In terms of anyone who, let's say, they're like new to DBA, are there any common misconceptions that you've heard people like talk about, like their fears about DBA that are not actually true when coming into like the career path?
um, Misconceptions. I think a lot of people come with the one a lot of people think you have to come from like at least have computer science or those type of things. There's people who think you have to be really be like a computer, yeah. I think I don't know why, but I don't know whether database administrator sounds techy.
It does sound techy, like database administration, like database. For
I
someone who's from like nursing, for example, now.
people are coming with data analysis and cybersecurity, but then when it comes to database administration, it looks, you know, um, I'm not quite sure. There's those things, and it does in terms of proficiency with computers. You need to be proficient to an extent, using a computer, using a laptop. Like I'm not trying to show you how to open up, power up your system or those. But if you're watching Netflix and browsing and sending emails, creating folders, pretty much that's about, as fluent or proficient as you need to be, right? I don't need you to be sending or creating folders using command prompt or any of those mounting commands or sending things on PowerShell. Nah, I don't need you to be at that level. I can again tell you many people that are already doing this and making money doing this do not know how to send a single command line instruction. So they never, I don't know it's possible. They've never used command line to do it. So, so that's fine. There are some of us who are lifers who just do all of these things for the fun of it, right? But it's not required. Um, a lot of people don't do any or haven't done any of these complicated things that we are able to do. So it's a myth, it's a misconception. Computer science or information systems or information sciences, you don't have to come from those, right? You can come from any of the backgrounds. Um, it doesn't matter. What they're looking for during your interview is, can you come in and help us? Are you proficient in the technology? Right? Are you solid? That's what interviewers are looking for. Is that's what they want to know, that you're going to come in and bring value, add value right away. So that's the main thing. The other misconceptions, again, people think it's hard, and I'll say it's not. It's tedious, but it's not hard. Especially, I intentionally also make it not. I don't make it up because I want you to build experience while you're going through the program, especially with us. And so I load it up with so many projects and practices and assignments so that you will leave trusting yourself because you have done it, right? It's not a case of have you done it? No, you can say, yes, I've done this because I did it so many times. And those people who embrace that process are the ones who go on and become successful. So is it hard? No, but it involves time. It involves you putting in time, putting in hours, in practice, in self-studying, not just listen, not just showing up for class, but really you need a level of obsession, as you were, to because yeah, I really hope anybody coming into this, yes, you want to make the money, you want the flexibility and all the benefits, but I also have you have this desire to just jump in and immerse yourself in it, at least for the season where you're going through that knowledge acquisition. Be willing to just immerse yourself and um, eat it like food. Um, Another one, I think this one is another one that I don't know where it came from, but and this comes from just pure, I'll say pure haters who saying there's no more jobs, there's no jobs, they're not hiring, nobody's getting. I wonder, where are you getting this information from, right? Go on LinkedIn right now if you're watching. Go on LinkedIn right now and look up SQL DBA roles. Wherever you are in your zip code, look up SQL DBA roles near me. Or just you put database administrator roles, look it up, right? Go on the Bureau of Labor Statistics and see how many people were hired last year. These things, you don't have to listen to people, you can investigate the numbers, compare that to other fields, right? And see, okay, how many security engineers or how many network administrators, how many cyber security analysts were hired last year? Do the at least now you're coming at this with data. You're not just listening to somebody who say, well, nobody's getting hired or no, right? The market might be more competitive, doesn't mean people are not getting hired or people are not getting calls, right? So is there more competition in the market? Getting into tech has been a trend. People have been pushing that for over the last, maybe say last 5 years. So if it was very easy when I first started to get a job, it probably is a bit more difficult now. Not more difficult, but it's a bit more competitive, right? Because there's more people, there's more awareness, more people are learning tech, more people want to get into tech, more people know I don't need to go back to school to do computer science to get into tech. And so it's more competitive now, but there's more opportunity now than there ever was as well. So a little competition doesn't hurt anybody, right? At least that will also help you appreciate your job when you get it. So there's no jobs or it's dried up. Now, even in COVID, right? Even during the peak of COVID, guys were getting work. Even with COVID, I know I was getting, calls and all of that. People were, I literally got, I did an interview that they were, okay, just come in once a week, come in and pick up laptop and all of that. Like I can remember that interview that I got the offer. Right. So it's during the pandemic, right? I just had a very good situation going. It wasn't, what I was doing was just too good. And then my youngest daughter was just born. So yeah, I would, it didn't, life didn't, it doesn't know it was going to leave something familiar that was working and all of that to go take that one. But I tried it out to see. I was wanted to flex with the two job this thing, but then I look at all my situation. All right, so yeah, even in that, I guess the most economically downtrodden season of that we've, at least in my lifetime, that's been the worst, we've seen. Um, Somebody was still willing to pay me 120K. So so that's to show you where that you don't have to do the research yourself is what I'll say. The data on number of hires in the US is not private, it's public. You can look those numbers up. You can at least I recommend everybody to do that. Do a search in your area, see if it's opportunities exist where you are. There's also a fear that, okay, all the jobs people are going back to the office, and yes, that's trending back. But most jobs are hybrid. In fact, when you start talking to recruiters, they will say like they just want to see you once a week or something. You talk to her, that's the direction they're going. It's let's just show up, but it's never going back to how it was before COVID, right? Where you're 4 days in the office or 4 5 days in the office. It's except for tradition, very very traditional, old school companies. It's never going back there.
Okay.
So yeah.
In terms of database administration, like I would say database administration is like so broad the tools that you need to learn. Like when people are first coming in and they are looking at just seeing database administration, then they see like SQL and then they see Postgres and they see MySQL and they see all the other ones. What would be advice to someone who's like coming in or like what tools they should specialize or what they should learn first, like get into that database administration space?
I'll my again, Microsoft SQL is what we teach, and I'm not recommending that because that's what we teach, but it's also most people are also familiar with the Windows platform, right? Windows is still the biggest, user owned, end user use, computer system, right? Apple, Mac, is more popular in the design, graphics, web design, that realm, people in that realm, people who are in production, audio, video, creative, in the creative world, Apple, Mac owns that realm. They've taken it over from Windows, right? People who are more security organizations and that security dimension, that's where you see the Unix. But I mean, like, have you seen a Unix computer before? So, there are things that run on Unix, right? Unix is a valid operating system. It's still out there, yeah. And so, but Windows is by far the globally. So most people who have used a computer are familiar with Windows. When you're doing Microsoft SQL, it's not everything is it's not going to be a new navigating the interface is not going to be foreign to you because you're already using Microsoft Word, you're already using Excel, you're already using PowerPoint. So you know to go to File and to go to, you've done installation before, so you know to click next and do follow a wizard. A lot of the things we do is that's it. Right now, we're just doing it in a different, it's just SQL Server, but it still follows the same Windows architecture, right? And so it helps with the learning curve is not as steep in that aspect. So now all you're really doing is, if all we did was just do this is what I need you to do, click, 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 right? In 3 4 weeks, you can get through the program and send people out and they go and do okay. The reason, the core of training and what we do is we're actually helping you understand the not just infrastructure, but the architecture rather of SQL Server and the architecture of this system so that when they break, You understand them enough to reverse engineer and then get to a solution. That's what they pay us for, right? The how high availability works, how clusters are connected, how to set it up, but not just to set it up, but you understand it enough to where if I need to, if one server is down critical and we need to be back up in 2 minutes, I understand enough so I can fail over properly and bring it up and I can explain that to somebody and then while I'm working on it. So that's where the our expertise comes, is in understanding the intricacies of the database engine and all of those things. But just the implementation aspect of database administration is very simple, right? It's literally simple. It's if you click around enough, you figure it out. Literally, right? If you click around enough, you figure out most things. Create a database. Like if you've done Windows enough to know how to right click around, and a lot of things we dance around those things like that. So um, I would highly recommend for somebody who is, I won't say go to Oracle if you're just starting out, right? Because that might require, that's more intricate. Again, Unix, operating system wise, it's even MySQL has some of that. All those more scripting dependent. But eventually you're going to, as you spend time again, you're going to evolve. But for the person just this is your first rodeo into this, I won't go into MySQL or Oracle. I'll start with Microsoft SQL. Maybe Postgres is the only other one I'll say might have that feel, but again, I almost feel like I don't know who stole from each other, Postgres or Microsoft. Similar kind of, and with the newer versions of SQL coming out, they're making these things even simpler, right? They're simplifying these things. They're expanding what it's able to do, but making it easier to do it, right? So it's like they make the implementation easier, but the capability way better, right? So it's going to be upskilling will be so much faster. The main thing will be now downloading that back end, if that back end design and understanding to people, to help them, give people enough practice and simulation to where they are confident in what they know and being able to go and not cost the company millions of dollars by making.
All right. That is all the questions and that we have for today. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience?
Yeah, so for anybody watching this, this week only, we're doing a promotion on all of our programs, our database program and all the other Insta programs. And it's this week only because we want to hit our goals in terms of the targets of people we want to help this year. So this week only, we're doing our biggest promotion ever on all of our trainings, 50% off all of our trainings. Again, it expires Saturday, well, Friday, because the office is closed on Saturday. Saturday, my staff is off, and and I'm not. So, uh, and then again, it's a whole 50% off, flat like that. And so, if maybe again we've talked about the investment, we can charge 10K for this and it will still be worth it. And people do. If you go learn at the Emory's or any of this Georgia Techs, that a lot of them are going to the continuing education. If you go to those other big names, you pay well because they'll give you financing, they'll give you student loans. You do student loans, you sign up. We're not there yet in terms of infrastructure as a business, but we still want, there are people, we still want to keep doing our part in equipping our community with the skills they need. So it, it's a no-brainer if this is something you want to do. But if you're serious about making a change, then this is your opportunity, this is your side. So go ahead, and I think at some point the description of this video will be updated and it should have a link to book a call, talk to somebody. But it has to be this week. After this week, that's it. We're not in the mood where we're not as big to where we can keep you the money. And that's our big announcement. And I'll keep talking about it all week as I go through my my platform tours. But after this week, that's it. That's it. So once we get the people again, we want to help people who we can help, who are ready to do the work and put in the effort. And we know one thing is people pay attention when they pay. So that's why we do it the way we do it. So if you're ready to make a change, then
One class session. You be
yeah,
focused.
so we have the best prices. And now we're even further discounting that again because we want to
Mm.
remove that hindrance. We want to remove that barrier. Um, so get in ASAP. Send us a message, DM myself. If you know Femi's Instagram, find him and hit him up. Yeah, we'll get it taken care of.
Thank
That's the announcement I have. Thanks for this. This is always fun. I mean, I actually enjoy this.
you. Wonderful. All right. Thank you everyone for joining us. As he said, sign up for the meetings and for the class session that's about to start. And yep, that's it for today's session. Thank you.
Thanks everyone.
I'm just like a clapping.